And welcome to our daily space weather video. We'll be talking about solar magnetism, the heliospheric current sheet, coronal holes, and more sunspots. And there is a North Pole heliospheric current sheet just about to arrive at the Earth. By tomorrow, the Earth should be in a North Pole plasma current sheet, shown here in green. And let's take a look at the GOES magnetometers. There's the GOES 16 and 17 magnetometer readings. We did see a brief geomagnetic storm last night. And let us know if you've got imagery of aurorae. We are on Twitter, twitter.com/smashomash. All over the internet at smashomash. Anyway, some pretty wild spikes here happening in the GOES magnetometer, and some plasma incongruities happening. So here's a line of sight view, and no new sunspots have risen in the eastern limb. Here's the coronal hole plot, and you can see a significant North Pole oriented coronal hole here rotating in. It is trans-equatorial. It's covering like 70% of that latitude line there. So yeah, significant coronal hole there rotating in. Perhaps we can expect some more geomagnetic effects from that. Here's the view in 193 angstroms. And keep in mind, folks, the corona is very bumpy. As you can see from here, there are these large bumps in the corona, and that makes it difficult to see these coronal holes from Earth's perspective. Needless to say, they are there, and these National Sunspot Observatory data help us to see where they are using light polarization to detect the magnetic fields of those portions of the sun. There's 193 angstroms. That's ionized iron. It's good at showing coronal holes. And let's move on to sunspots. So sunspots have mostly been stable here. As these two large groups approach the western limb, we expect the likelihood of solar flares to go up. Those still are capable of producing M or even X-class flares, folks. You can see those umbrae are about the size of the Earth. So no new sunspots. These active regions that have risen are not showing umbrae at the moment. Tune into our bonus features segment, which will premiere after this, to see if there are any new sunspots rising. So at the moment we've got, it looks like 6 sunspot groups that are named. Maybe only 5. I think it's only 5. 2931, I believe, has now set. So 5 named sunspot groups there. Most likely place to see major flares is probably out of 2930 and 2929. Those are still 2 major beta-gamma class groups. And likelihood of significant flares is still there, in my opinion. Next, the GOES X-ray flux here, and you can see only a couple of C-class intensifications, a double hump intensification here, happening yesterday around midday. Peak flux there around 1420 universal time, and another small C-class intensification this morning. That was at 740, approximately 740 universal time. No relativistic particles showing up at Earth as a result of any of those small solar flares. And let's go to the real-time solar wind. We did see an uptick here in the density. Could be another weak coronal hole wind stream intensification. We still do see a high-speed coronal hole wind as well. So solar wind speed still elevated here at 550 kilometers per second, approximately. Solar wind density around 10.5 protons per cubic centimeter. There was a brief geomagnetic storm just in the first hours of the day today on January 18th. And if you've got any auroral imagery you'd like to share, hit us up on Twitter, twitter.com/smashomash. And here's a teaser of what we've been posting over there. Shout out to Dr. Erica Palmerio. Some polar stratospheric clouds here. Not exactly sundogs, those are actual clouds. Next, looking at the geospace here, the magnetic environment surrounding Earth, Earth's magnetic moment from space. That's 4 hours of data, and you can see some pressure waves coming in there. It's showing magnetohydrodynamic pressure in nanopascals. Anyway, that's the geospace over the last 4 hours, modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. This scale is nanotesla magnetic flux density, and like the last pane, that's 4 hours of data. Still some likely auroras happening here, mainly places like southern Canada. Continuing on, here's a star chart, or rather a solar system chart. Keep in mind it's not to scale. We're going to show you the 1 week forecast. And there's where things will be in a week. Here is a star chart. We've shown the galactic plane here in blue. This blue line, that's the galactic plane. The yellow line is the ecliptic. If you're up before dawn, you may see Mars and Venus rising ahead of the sun. Venus, the third brightest object in the sky, as the second brightest object in the sky, the moon, is in a setting mode. Next are coronal mass ejection viewers. So here's Stereo A and the LASCO SOHO C3. We did see another coronal mass ejection. It's not expected to be Earth-directed. It is off to the northwest. So from Stereo A's perspective, Earth is off in this direction. And from the LASCO C3, the Earth would be behind you. From that perspective, no Earth-facing coronal mass ejections there. And we'll close out this portion of the daily space weather on this astronomy picture of the day. So at apod.nasa.gov, this is a great desktop if you like your computer desktops to contain some interesting data. This showing the small and large Magellanic Clouds, some satellite galaxies of the Milky Way, as well as some nebulae, the Orion Nebula. You can see part of that. This ring feature is known as Barnard's Loop. Just some spectacular imagery there from apod.nasa.gov, the astronomy picture of the day. And it's where we'll close out. Thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. May that solar wind be at your back.